that I was trying to use. Okay, so I just hit go live, and then it takes a second to get there. But then I should be able to. Yay, we're live. Okay, everybody. So I want to start off by welcoming you guys. Look at my language. Woohoo! First day with my new tongue. So I want to welcome you guys to Monday Whispers Chat. And so Bridging the Gap Wellness is all about being able to create a holistic life and helping everybody find balance. And so each week during Monday Whispers Chat, we actually feature an amazing and inspiring woman. And this week I am super, super excited, like more than excited, to be able to share that doing this this call with Deaquelynn. So Deaquelynn, and it's Deaquelynn, right? Yes. Did I pronounce it right? I know that you always say Deaquelynn. And I love the way she says that. And so it's Deaquelynn Williams, and she's a self-love advocate, spiritual teacher, soul guide, community partner, and author. And since 2003, she has empowered hundreds of women and teens with the message of faith, hope, and love through conferences, retreats, and online programs and classes. Many of us who have experienced soul trauma in our life, and instead of taking time to heal, we cover it up and we try to move beyond it to no avail. Usually those wounds show up somewhere in our lives. Healing the soul encompasses facing, embracing, and being willing to strip away the stories and the issues to become free. So I am so excited to have Deaquelynn here. She has been somebody that I've been following for some time, and have participated in some of her online groups, and super, super excited to be able to have Deaquelynn here. So welcome, Deaquelynn. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself that that we didn't touch on?
Well, I am a full-time caregiver, and I have my two nieces that I take care of. One has special needs, and the other is 16 and ready to drive and ready to do everything teenagers do. So between coaching, and this is one of my passions, coaching, and especially doing my soul coaching is what I like to call it, in Self-Love University, they are my busy. They keep me pretty busy.
Nice. That is amazing. So thank you very much for being here.
So
so I wanted to start off with, so what is Self-Love University? Let's start off with that, because that is that's a big thing, I think. So let's start off with, what is Self-Love University?
Self-Love University is an online program. We meet every Tuesday where we really go within and love ourselves truly from the inside out. It's about transforming your mind, transforming your emotions even. I like to say transmute your emotions and really begin to just live a life where you truly love yourself. And I believe that when you begin to really love yourself, that's when you're able to effectively love others, because we can only do to others what we do initially and first to ourselves.
That is beautiful. And so you said you do that every Tuesday night online. That's virtual, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. We so have such a wonderful sisterhood of women who we meet together every Tuesday in a Facebook group. And I'm so excited because we have developed such a sisterhood and really loving and appreciating each other every time we meet on Tuesdays.
Nice. So that is amazing. So I see some eyeballs that have actually popped up on our Facebook Live. And so for those of you who are watching, say hello, let us know that you're actually on. If you guys have any questions or you guys want to be able to jump in the discussion, I will keep coming back and taking a look at the conversation and seeing where things are at. And so I want to be able to acknowledge a couple of faces that are eyeballs that are definitely on right now, is Maggie and Patricia, and welcome to the two of you. Really excited that you guys are actually here. So what does it mean to love yourself? Like, how would you describe that?
To love yourself, to me, it means when you really honor yourself, when you're able to be honest with yourself, and when you can see yourself for all of the flaws and all of the issues and still love yourself regardless. And I always like to say it this way: to love yourself to anything and love yourself through anything. That's what loving yourself is. Meaning that whatever you are wanting to, whatever your goals that you have, whatever things you want to accomplish in life, you can love yourself to that, or love yourself through any hardship or any troubles or any trauma that you may be experiencing. So just love yourself through it, meaning be patient with yourself, meaning be kind with yourself, meaning be honest with yourself, meaning give yourself permission to sometimes just say, you know what, I don't have all the answers, and be okay with it. That's what loving yourself is all about.
And that's a topic that's really, really difficult, isn't it? Like being able to love yourself unconditionally. And that's really, truly what it is being able to love yourself unconditionally. We really struggle with that. And I find that it happens more often with women than it does with men. Not that it doesn't happen with men. And I've worked with men that have that same struggle, but I would say probably a good 85 to 90% of women are the ones that they really struggle with. Like, what has been your experience?
Absolutely. I work mainly with women and young girls, and even young girls are going through this. What I believe is that we're taught so much that, others come first, and, it's wrong to, we think that self-love is being conceited or being vain, as opposed to really loving yourself from a divine place. So I see it a lot with young girls and with women, where they are so busy worried about and thinking about and concerned about and caring about everyone else, and not really caring about themselves. And so when I start talking about self-love, and it's really about removing the layers of issues and things that you have, to really see who you are at your core, and understanding that you are divine light, you are divine love. When we start getting to that, down to that part, that's when I see people have those aha moments, like, oh, I think what we think is that we're loving the shell as opposed to loving the soul.
Yeah. And I love the way that you describe that. That is so, and it's so profound, right? So it's so profound yet simple.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is just so profound yet simple. And some of the things that Deaquelynn has a group called what is it called? Self-love
wellness habit.
Self-love wellness habit.
Yes.
And that is where I first met Deaquelynn, is in that group. And one of the things that she does every single month is she does a 21-day challenge. And she shares that, right? So every month she has a new prompt, or every day she has a new prompt for 21 days. And it's all different ways of being able to love yourself. And there's different speakers that have come into that group, and it's a remarkable group. It is, it's loving and supportive. And like I said, I've been following Deaquelynn for a little while, and definitely throughout that group, and attempting to do some of the self-love challenges that she actually has in there is, and not because I don't do it consistently because of all the rest of the things that I've actually got going on in my life. There have been a couple of the challenges that it's like, hey, I'm doing this every single day. But I try and get into the group at least once a week to be able to see what's going on in the group, because it really is incredible to be part of that loving and that loving community with such remarkable people that are in there sharing their experiences and being part of it. So what are some of the things so we talked about that whole self-love and really being able to dig in and figuring out where it is that we need to go with things, or that we need. It's not about need, it's about you always struggle with those kinds of words, right? Because it's like the shoulds and the would'ves and the could'ves, and like those are just damning on yourself, and those are just really difficult. So it's really hard sometimes to be able to find that language that we need to not have all those things that we have to do things. But what are some of the things that we could be doing that would actually be helpful to be able to connect with our self-love? What are some of the things that you would suggest?
Number one, and I always, this is my favorite, but it's always, I think, the most important, and that is being quiet and listening within, because our intuition is always speaking to us. Our intuition is always leading us and guiding us. We just have to be quiet and listen. And by being quiet, I'm not just talking about shutting everything off and just being quiet and sitting in silence, but really just going within and asking your soul, what do you have to say to me? Where are you leading me? You know, should I do this and should I do that? And just listen and um, not try to overpower what you hear or even doubt what you hear. A lot of times I tell people, you know, write down what you hear and then don't doubt it. Don't try to question it or anything. Just write it down and let it be. And then go back and ponder and say, okay, this seems like this is the right path. This is the right thing to do. So that's the first thing, is being quiet and listening within. Another thing is, I think that you should just start asking the right questions to yourself about yourself. You know, why do I react this way? Why do I respond this way? Why does this make me feel the way I feel? And in speaking of emotions, I always tell people that when your emotions come up, especially those what we call negative emotions, I'm putting them in air quotes because I don't really necessarily believe that they're really negative. I believe that they are indicators. They're indicative of something that's going on within us. And what we have to do is even follow those emotions that we have inward and ask that emotion, what are you here to reveal to me about myself so that I can heal that? So those are the ways. Listen within and ask your right questions and also follow those emotions within.
Those are beautiful. And I love how I love the point that you made about the those negative emotions being in air quotes, specifically because they're, like you said, they're not negative, right? Those are those emotions come up because in most cases they are there to be able to motivate us to change.
Yes.
Right. So anger is a motivator to change.
Yes.
If you don't like something, it's like, oh, okay, well, what am I going to be able to do to change that? Right. Yes. So and that could be, so like if you're feeling angry at the way that somebody responded to you, or if you're feeling angry at a situation that's actually going on, it's not because these people are bad or that these situations are not so great. And some of them might be, but for the most part, it's about like, what is it? And like you said, one of the things that you had on your list was, why am I feeling that way?
Yes.
What is it that's triggering that emotion?
Yes.
Why am I feeling
triggers? Yes.
Right? So like, what is it that's actually happening that's actually causing us to be able to feel that? So Maggie has actually shared, and I know that Maggie had put this up a little bit, but Deaquelynn and I were talking, so I didn't acknowledge Maggie's comment. So Maggie says, hi, Maggie here. Self-love is so important. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And I love that wisdom.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
So and so what does that mean to you when somebody says you can't pour from an empty cup? What does that mean to you?
You know, it's so funny that we're talking about this because I have a group for life coaches, and I shared in a couple of classes recently that we cannot pour from an empty cup. It's impossible to pour from an empty cup. I mean, it's impossible to pour from an empty vessel, whatever that vessel is, whether it's a cup, a jug, a jar, whatever. Here's the thing, though, we have to make sure that number one, we view ourselves as a vessel, whatever that vessel is, a cup that's worthy of being filled, and then fill yourself by doing the work, the inner work, the energy work, and the physical work that it takes so that you can be healed, you can be whole, but also so that you can help others, because we're here to not just heal ourselves, but also to provide healing for the world. And we do that by being whole. We do that by working on ourselves first. And as we're working on ourselves, the other people around us will either fall in line, they'll see it, they'll be inspired, or we can motivate them, we can educate them, and we can empower them just by filling our own cups.
And so one of the questions that I often get asked, or comments that actually get made a lot of times, and I'm sure that this is something that you hear often, is, oh, you've been at this since 2003, 2005, oh, then you're all healed and there's no problems and your life is grand, isn't it, Deaquelynn?
Right. Of course not. Here's the thing, you never plateau in any type of inner work that you're doing, because the deeper that you go within, it's almost as if you're opening a new door to new issues and new traumas, and not necessarily new, old issues and old traumas that you still have to heal. Because there have been things that I thought I was healed from, and then it takes one thing, somebody say something or do something, and then it's like, why did I feel that way? And then I go back, oh my gosh, I thought I was healed from that. I thought I was over that. So really, it's really just different levels that we have to work through. And here's the thing too, when we grow in perspective, when we grow and mature in our lives, then we're actually looking at it from a different perspective and looking at it and having a different perception of things. And so now we can heal from the new perception. So it's not always about just healing one time and being over. No, you're growing and you're becoming a different person. You have new perceptions about life and situations, and now you can heal from a different perception.
Yeah, and that is just, it's so true, but it is this myth that is out there when it comes to people that are helping. And so I have a coach that I've been working with for probably about 6 months now. And one of the things that she talks about is that she has, and I'm hoping that she's okay with me sharing this, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I'm hoping she's good with that. But one of the things that she shared is that she actually had a client that came to her because one of the things that she shared about was there were some ups and downs and some challenges that were actually going on in her relationship. And somebody said, well, I can't hire a coach that doesn't have their relationship isn't 100% intact and that there's no problems. It's like, I have never, ever, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I have never met somebody who has a perfect relationship.
Right.
No such thing. There are ups, there are downs, there's differences, there are situations, there are emotions, there are so many factors that come into play when it comes to relationships. There are some amazing relationships, and I've seen some incredible relationships, but even these people who have these incredible relationships still have disagreements, still have things that they actually don't. And so so that expectation of like your whole life, so if you fix everything and you deal with everything, then my life is now perfect and we don't have to deal with it. And that is what a lot of people strive to be able to do, and that makes it really just difficult, because then they get disappointed when they can't have a perfect life.
Yes.
So so how do you respond to that when people have those kinds of expectations of themselves?
So number one, know that it'll never be perfect. And that it's okay to be perfectly imperfect. That's what makes us perfect, being imperfect. You know, so it's okay to be perfectly imperfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be a perfectionist and put unreasonable expectations on yourself, because when you do, you live in a constant state of self-disappointment, a constant state of putting yourself down. And like you were talking about earlier, saying those words like never and things like that, you put these expectations on yourself that you would never even be able to live up to within yourself. And that's what disappointment, that's all disappointment is putting unreasonable expectations in something or a person. And as soon as it doesn't live up to that expectation, then we're disappointed. So a lot of people are living and walking around disappointed at themselves because their life isn't what they think it should be, which really you are exactly where you're supposed to be in this level, like I say, in this perception, in this mindset, in this belief, wherever you are right now is where you're supposed to be until you get to another place. And then when you get to that place is where you're supposed to be. So understand that it's a process, it takes time, but also your life will never, ever, ever be perfect. Never. And that's a beautiful thing. It's not bad to say that my life is not perfect. There are things that I'm still working on and working towards. And you know, if I showed you one room in my house right now that I'm purging stuff, you know, I consider myself a very organized person. If you see this one room in my house, you're like, oh my God, I did not know that your house looked like that. This one room, because I'm putting all the things that I want to give away and throw away in this one room. So I could easily say, well, you know what, my house is not perfect and I just feel like a failure or whatever. But no, I give myself permission to make mistakes. I give myself permission to be imperfect. And that's what we have to do. We have to give ourselves permission to mess up, to not have it right, to not have all the answers, and be okay with that. Give ourselves grace. That's all it is giving yourself grace.
And those mistakes, depending on what it is, if we're doing the mistake over and over and over again, then there's something that we're not learning.
Yes.
But those mistakes are things about being able to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Those mistakes are being able to give us that opportunity to be able to grow. And one of the analogies that I use all the time is when you were talking about those traumas that seem to it's like, oh, I dealt with that already. Why is that coming back up again? Is that because you dealt with it based on the layer that it was. So it's like an onion, right? So you peel off the one onion, you let it sit there, it actually forms a new skin, you move on, you do your own thing, and then you go back and you peel that next layer, and then you allow that skin to grow back again. And so it's just, and the first time that somebody said, oh, the skin grows back on the onion, I'm like, really? So I actually tried it, because that was one of the analogies that a leader had taught me years and years and years ago. And I'm like, why do you guys say like peeling an onion? Like, why an onion? And it's because that little thin layer of skin is what actually forms back and creates a new skin if you actually let it sit. Most of us cut our onions in chunks or whatever, so like we don't notice that whole peeling thing, but if you actually just peel it off one layer at a time, that's exactly what it is that happens. And so that's incredible. So hello Diane, and hello Beth. And so again, for those of you who are actually hopping on, if you guys have any questions, if you guys want to be able to join in the discussion, please do. We'll definitely include you guys in the discussions. And for those of you guys, let me try that again. For those of you catching the replay, then hashtag replay and let us know that you guys are on. I will be tagging Deaquelynn on here as well, so she can come back and in the thread. And I know she definitely comes back into the thread and has conversations. So I'm letting you guys know that for sure, that if you guys put anything in there, either now live or in the replay, then Deaquelynn will definitely come back and comment, because she always does. She's incredible that way. So I know that I try to, but I don't always necessarily. But Deaquelynn will definitely, you comment, she's there. So what are some of the things that you do to be able to, that are fun, that create that self-love? What are some of the things that you do for fun to create self-love?
Oh my gosh. The biggest fun I have is allowing myself to just be silly and do whatever I want to do, when I want to do it. Just give my permission to go with the flow. A couple of years ago, I think it was last year, 2017, I started painting. So I love painting. I love really creating curriculum and teaching my classes. That's one of the things that it just gives me so much joy to be able to do that. Also spending time with my family, just loving myself, really giving myself permission. That's all. Just really saying to myself, you know what, you deserve the little things. Like if you want a piece of candy, get a piece of candy, you deserve it. I'm going to say it this way to explain why I do it that way. I used to have the lowest of low self-worth and lowest of low self-esteem, to where I was always critical of myself, and I didn't give myself permission to do much of anything. And so the last few years, I've decided that I'm going to give myself permission. And so for me, I find fun in the littlest things that people probably be like, girl, that's nothing, But for me, it's fun because now I'm getting to explore life from a space of I'm free to do whatever, I'm free to be whoever, and not feel like I need to judge myself or put myself down or think that I shouldn't be free.
And that's beautiful. And that's one of the things that it goes back to those labels that we put on ourselves of all the things that we should or shouldn't do. And it's being able to laugh, right? That belly laugh. And just And it's that belly laugh that is completely contagious. And if you can actually be completely silly, I love being able to spend time with the kids, because that is when I actually get to be that completely silly without having to worry about what some of the adults are going to think.
Right. Yes.
It's like, are they going to think that I'm crazy? Are they going to think that I'm nuts? And the thing is that as I learn to be able to open up more and being able to share more and not be so rigid when I'm in public, is being able to that there's other people that think those things are funny too. Other people that think that that is fun too, right? So being able to, I love going to splash in the puddles.
Yes.
So that is one of my things that, so it's like when I have little kids that I know that their moms and dads are going to be okay with it, because some of the moms and dads are not okay with it, but so long as their parents are okay with it, it's like, I'm going to go and run and splash in those puddles with the kids because that's fun. It's fun. Right. It really gets you into that, that really being able to connect with that inner self, that inner child, that having that fun and releasing and letting it go.
Yes, and I like what you said, that other people look at it and they think it's fun too, but also two other people are looking at it and they're inspired by it. You know, they look at it and they may not say anything, but in their hearts and in their minds, they're probably inspired and, you know, or even say, I wish I could be that fun. I wish I can have, you know, that freedom or whatever. So even when we take those actions and not worry about what people think, you don't even know that you could possibly be inspiring someone to take that same action and do something that will set their hearts free.
Yep. And you're right. And so like, and that's when I'm doing the different challenges, and I do the different challenges because I do the different challenges and then I share the challenge that I've actually decided to do. So like right now I'm doing the selfie, love your
selfie challenge.
and so my post today, when I shared it to my business page, was about being able to share those moments in my life that are actually happening. And I've actually realized that while doing this challenge, because I think I'm on day 22, if I'm not mistaken. And so while we're doing this challenge is that, oh, I am such a creature of habit. So to be able to, it's like, I don't want to take a picture of me doing the exact same thing every day. So I've actually had to purposely do things to be able to make sure that I'm actually capturing different moments of my life and the things that I'm actually doing. And I've tried very carefully not to include my husband in too many of our selfies because I'm okay with doing selfies.
Right.
For a while, it's took me a while to be able to do them, but I'm okay with them. And so my husband's like, oh, great, she's doing a selfie challenge. That means that I'm going to be in a lot of pictures. So I've been trying to be very careful not to include him. But like my selfie yesterday was me having a nap. Right. So obviously I wasn't having a nap while I was taking a selfie, because like that's, I obviously can't take a selfie and nap at the same time. So it was just as I was actually getting cozy to have my nap, I'm like, oh, this would be a perfect selfie moment. Okay, just a minute. So then I went back, grabbed my phone, took my selfie with me closing my eyes and laying there. And then I posted it, put it out there saying that I was actually having my nap. That's what my selfie was for today. And then I set my phone down and went and had a nap. And so, but it's like being able to find those moments and being able to find those different things of, that are actually in our moment, in our day, and being able to, and the purpose of this selfie challenge is about being able to love your face. And so that's one of the things that I don't have any difficulty. I love my face. I love the way that I know that I've got bright, beautiful eyes. I know that my personality comes through my face. And so like, I don't, but that, ask me 5-10 years ago, that probably would have never happened. But I'm okay with that part of things. And so now, are there other body parts that I need to like love myself about? Absolutely. And that's where Heather came in a few weeks ago. But like my face is something that I'm okay with taking a selfie. I'm okay with being able to do that. And so, but it's being able to do those different things to be able to step yourself outside of that comfort zone. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of us is being able to step out. So what is your experience with people stepping out of their comfort zone, Deaquelynn?
You know, I realize that so many people are afraid to step out. And I had to change my perspective of comfort zones because I used to be that person where I was just afraid to do and try anything because I was in my little bubble, more so a religious bubble than anything else. But I got the perspective or the thought one day that if I step one step outside of my comfort zone, then it's really me expanding my comfort zone. So my new experience is a part of me now. And so when my new experience becomes a part of me, then I'm even more comfortable in who I am and in what I'm doing. So I've allowed myself to just start taking one step at a time. And sometimes I think what people do is they overwhelm themselves or they look at the big picture and say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But you can only do it one step at a time. So if you take one step outside of your comfort zone and stand in that one step for as long as you need to stand in it to be comfortable with it, and then take the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. And before you know it, you will be comfortable. I'm actually taking a challenge on Instagram this month, going live every day for the month of March. And initially I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go live every day because I have this thing. I'm a true introvert. And so even if it comes across in my business, I can go live in private groups all day long. But when I go public live, you know, it's like I have to prepare myself. I have to get myself mentally prepared. Just like going out of the house, I sometimes have to get myself mentally prepared. That's just the introvert in me. So doing this live challenge, I noticed by the third day, which was yesterday, I was like, oh, I can't wait to do my, you know, just after 3 days, but you really have to just take yourself one step at a time when you're going outside of your comfort zone. Never overwhelm yourself and don't try to do too many things at one time. If you know that you are uncomfortable in certain situations or certain settings, take one step and just stand in that one step and then go to the next step and the next step.
And that is something that is really important, is that we don't, and we often compare ourselves to the other person, right? Yes. So, so that's one of the things is that I am, in terms of like, again, like you, I can actually teach my classes, I can stand in front of my class, I can, but to be able to go live, people are like, oh, you do an amazing job when you go live. And I love being able to listen to you go live. Right. Like, I'm like, before I push that live button, I am, oh my God, am I going to actually say the right thing? Am I going to say something stupid? And so one of the things when I first started Monday Whispers Chat was that I actually had everything scripted. And it was like, I knew exactly what it was I was going to say. Well, then as I was actually talking, well, then I couldn't even remember how to introduce myself. I forgot who I was and what it is that I do it and what was my business or anything like that. I couldn't even remember the basic things of who I was.
Right.
To be able to do it. So like now it's like, who cares? Like, so now it's like I have a general idea of like, okay, this is who it is. And then I read the script so that I don't, so like try not to mess up the person that I'm actually doing, that I'm introducing. And even then I still mess up because it's like, oh, I have to read the whole thing. Right. Sometimes that becomes a challenge, but I don't get flustered about that anymore. And so now if I'm doing it on just a live, then I'm like, oh no, I messed up. But like when I'm doing it on Monday Whispers Chat now, I've been doing it for, I can't remember when I started, I think back in June or July last year. Mm-hmm. And so like now it's just habit because I do it on Mondays, I do it with different people. And I know that when I muff up, like somebody like you that's been doing lives for a while or teaching for a while, it's really not a big deal. But I have had some people that I've interviewed that this is the first time. This is the first time that they've actually done the live. This is the first time they've been interviewed. And so that is a big, huge challenge for some people. And so then when I muff up, they're like, oh, phew, thank goodness. It's like, she's interviewing me and she's messing up. So, oh, good. I don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I say all the time that our mistakes are two things. They are magical and they are tools for mastery.
Yep.
You know, because they bring out something in us when we make a mistake and we realize that we made a mistake. You can laugh at it, but you can correct it. One of the two. So that's why I say that they're either magical or they are tools for mastery.
And that's amazing, right? So, but when we meet people face to face, we don't have a scripted conversation, right? And that was one of the reasons why when I first started with Monday Whispers Chat, I had a series of questions. It's like, these are some of the things that I'm going to ask you. And then that was actually causing a lot of anxiety for some people. It's like, well, what happens if I answer the wrong thing? And for me, it was never about being able to have everything scripted and everything exactly the way that, so like, we're not in a play, we're not in a movie, and
Right.
sharing about what it is that we have in terms of our knowledge and our experience. And my whole purpose of Monday Whispers Chat is about really inspiring other women. And so when I'm chatting with you, or when I'm chatting with someone else, it's that you have lots of knowledge that you're able to share, and lots of experiences that you're able to share. And if you and I met on the street, or we met for coffee, we wouldn't be sitting there with our piece of paper saying, okay, Deaquelynn, now I'm going to ask you this question.
Right.
Now, make sure that you answer the right question, because like now I'm actually at the next one. So I don't do that, because it would just cause so much anxiety, especially for somebody that was new. And for me, that couldn't remember how to be able to introduce myself without it being like perfect. And so it was just that being able to free flow that conversation, and just exactly what it is that we're doing is having this conversation and not really knowing where the conversation's going to go.
Right.
And having, which would be in real life, and having people that are actually on live, either sharing and or coming in on the replays, but people that are actually on live that are actually asking questions or joining in the discussions. It's a great way for us to be able to just have those conversations and not have to worry about like, oh, now we're completely off script. Now where do we go? How do we get ourselves back? Because they've asked us a question that took us off in a different direction. And so that is something that's extremely important to me, as being able to inspire women. And so, and each week I have somebody who responds back to me saying, oh, you know what? So I know that I'm going to have somebody that comes back in, either whether it's on the replay or during the live, that are going to come back and say, oh, you know what? This was amazing. This was fantastic. Thanks very much for the insight.
Right.
And it happens each week, and it doesn't matter what topic it is that's chosen, is that there's always somebody that comes back and says, you know what? I got something out of that. There was something that that small little message, or that one little thing that you said, really brought home how I was actually able to be connected. And so like, this is perfect in terms of like that self-love, right? So self-love really is about like, oh, how can I actually love myself to be able to take that next step? How can I actually love myself to be able to feel confident enough to be able to be not confident, right? So being unconfident to be confident.
Right.
Because taking those steps is, we're not confident, right? So when we have to jump into that unknown, it is not something that's pleasant.
Yes. You know, I was sharing with someone today, I had an exterminator come out and look at the house, and we were talking about when I first started taking care of my niece, and how initially it was hard when my sister first passed away, because we both were taking care of her together. And so now it was me by myself. And because he even said, he said, man, she looks good. And we talked about other things apart from what he was here for, number one. But when I was talking to him, I told him, I said, you know what? I said, because I've grown in confidence, because initially I was afraid that I was going to do something wrong and all of this stuff. But the more I grew in confidence in taking care of her, it's so easy now to do just the things, same thing, same process, took the same time now than it did 7-8 years ago. And now I go through it with a breeze. So not only did my confidence grow, but also my comfort, you know, being comfortable in what I was doing to take care of her. So it takes you to continue to practice over and over and over again too. So it's not just about taking that step, but also making sure that you're consistent in the steps. Because I used to hear, I had this pastor years ago, he used to always say consistency is the key to breakthrough. So whenever you want to break through a comfort zone, whenever you want to break through to the next level in your business, in your life, in your marriage, in your relationships, in your finances or whatever, you have to be consistent in practicing, consistent in learning, consistent in being kind and generous or whatever it is that you're wanting to do.
And that is so, and that's so true, right? So there's one of the things that, and I don't remember who the quote is from, and you may actually know who the quote is from. If you do, then please share who it is, because I don't remember who it is, but I know that there is a quote that's out there that says that when you're ready to give up, so like when you've started something new and you're ready to give up, that's when you're supposed to be pushing through, because that is where you're going to actually have that breakthrough. That is where it's actually going to happen.
Right.
And so I have a little munchkin who's trying to sneak out tonight. So he's like, hey, well, how do I get past without anybody noticing? I can see him kind of edging his way over to the room, and he's like, right. I'm going to get past the camera. So, but it's that part of things and exactly what it is that you said is that consistency. Consistency is key, but when we're ready to give up, that is when we are actually ready to break our threshold.
Yeah, keep pushing. I think it's Will Smith who says that everything you want is on the other side of fear. Maybe he quoted it, but I remember hearing him say that. And so sometimes you have to just keep going, push past any fear so that you can get the thing that you want to have.
Yeah.
And that's a part of self-love, loving yourself enough to push past your fears. Yep. And we have this class in Self-Love University where I use the acronym of FEAR called Face, Embrace, and Accept Reality. Reality is what everything that we want, that's where it exists in reality. This is not reality. What we see, this is not reality. Reality is really the realm where the things that we want is. And so in order for us to push past fear, we have to face it, we have to embrace it, and we have to accept that that's what I want to bring into my experiences. So now let me do whatever it takes to bring that into my experience.
Yep. I love that. That is beautiful. And because that is exactly it. So most of us stop because of that fear. Most of us don't move past because of that fear.
Yes.
And so, and those parts are like extremely important for us to be able to, extremely important for us to be able to do, because if we don't move past it, we don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I've had clients over the years that say, well, I've tried that already. It's like, okay, let's find something that we can take a look at and that we can try. And let's see if we can actually push past that part that you've actually struggled with. Because a lot of the people that I've worked with that I do work with, a lot of them have experienced trauma in their lives. And by pushing past that means that they actually have to live that part of that all over again, right? Not necessarily the experience, because that's not necessarily what it is that we're definitely not wanting them to work through that, like live through that part of the experience, but those emotions that actually come up, it's like, how can we get you to move to that next level? Yeah. How can we actually get you to be able to go through that next step? So one of the things that we talk about that we've shared in today is about that exposure, right? Just keep doing it, that consistency, keep doing it. And when we're working with people that have, when I'm working with people that have anxiety, that's exactly what it is. So when we're actually going through those next steps of like, how do I push past that anxiety, is we need to do that exposure. We need to expose ourselves to that thing that we're actually afraid of. And like I said, obviously we're not putting anybody in harm's way, and nobody's being expected to go back and live through whatever trauma. But some of the things that are triggering those emotions that are related to that trauma is the part that we actually have to push past.
Yes.
So like you said, like that fear of wanting to, that sometimes you have to build yourself up to being able to go out somewhere because of a different fear or different things, because you're so introverted. Some people, that's because of their trauma. And it's just being able to step into that next step, step into that next level of like, how can you do this to the next step where you can actually feel comfortable and live past it. So hi Lise, hi Kimberly, so glad you guys are here. And so like, just really important for us to be able to do that. And like, your message is very, and I love the fact that consistency was one of the things that you said, because your message is consistently coming back to that loving yourself, of being able to do those things and to take it to the next level and to help yourself get through that. So is there anything else that that you think that would be really helpful for people to know in terms of that self-love?
Let's see, so many things. Well, when it comes to self-love, we also have to realize that we are spirits, we have a soul, and we live in a physical body. And your soul, the subconscious part of you, is what navigates your life. And so we have to take time to honor that. We have to take time to pour into ourselves, pour into that, the I, the capital I, pour into that so that you can be free. I would say it this way. I'm looking for the right wording. Let your real true self come through and be okay with that. We put on so many, I don't want to call them airs because that's not what it is. We put on so many different, I'm going back to the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz, and how we've made agreements all of our lives. We're living up to other people's expectations, other people's, what society says, what our parents may have taught us or whatever. And then when we get to a certain age where we are stuck and we need to be free, then we have to really go back, like you said, in our minds and in our hearts and in our emotions and undo that stuff. Disagree. Choose to disagree. Like, I don't agree with that anymore. I can be free. I can do something different. I can live different. I can be different. I can do what I want. I can say what I want. I can marry who I want, as opposed to living other people's expectations. So that's really key. And I bring that back to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is where we can do that. We have to reprogram our subconscious mind. And when you reprogram your subconscious mind, that's the only way you're going to be free. Because we can do a lot of things on the surface level. We can work on your thoughts. You can work on your feelings and all of that stuff. You can work on that, but you got to get down to the root. And the root is the subconscious mind. And once you get down to that and give yourself permission to be free on all those levels, then that's when you're going to see real true changes in your life. Because I know for me, it took a long time for me to really start seeing a difference. And then when I started seeing a difference, I started becoming, initially I was afraid. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like who I'm becoming, because I was so programmed to be who everybody else expected me to be. And then when I started undoing that and finding myself, then I had to give myself permission to even love myself, the new me, So that's all I want to share. I have so much in my mind that I want to talk about. I really do. I love talking about self-love.
And there is so much to talk about, yes. Right? So this is a lifelong yes. journey. So even if you have grown up in an environment where self-love has been okay, for many of the women that I work with, self-love isn't okay because it's that selfishness. It's that you're being conceited, like the things that you were actually talking about at the beginning. And so even when you actually have those experiences and from a very young age where your parents or your aunties or your grandmothers are actually teaching you to be able to love yourself, there's still a society that puts all these different expectations of what you should be looking for, the things that you should be doing, how you should be doing things. And how, and again, from one society to the next, as to well, these are my traditions. There's religious, there's non-religious, there's patriarchy. There's so many different things that kind of play a factor as to how this works and what's going to happen. And then there's consequences to not following the rules exactly the way that somebody else expects them to be. And so those are things that are extremely important. And so today I saw our women's shelter locally has done because it's International Women's Day on Friday. And so today they actually had their International Women's Day activities. And so you see these pictures of women who are doing different activities and participating in, and they're taking pictures of themselves in a picture frame, and they're doing and these are things, and getting their hair cut, and painting, and all these really, really cool things that the women's shelter was able to do. And the sad part about it is that for a lot of these women, is that this is the first time that they get to do some of these things.
Mhm.
And so it should be normal. It should be just part of our everyday lives. But yet for some of the women, this is something that is not normal to them, and it's not customary, and it's not something that that they are typically able to do for whatever reason, or they've changed their lives that has allowed that to happen. But so I love the fact that at this time of the year that we see so many of these different things that are actually going on in our communities that allows women to be able to do these things and be participating in this stuff. And sometimes it has to do with financial, sometimes it has to do with abusive situations. There's a lot of different factors. Sometimes it has to do with our own self-esteem. So like there's a lot of different reasons why this is not happening. And because I know that I will probably get attacked from some men saying we're not all evil, and it's like, and it's true, that's not it at all. Mm-hmm. And but that is that black and white thinking that people have as being able to, like, there's only a right and there's a wrong, and there's no way of being able to see it as different. Mm-hmm. But we have evolved over the years, and I love being able to share that experience where there's traditions around how we interact with our own self-love, mm-hmm. of both men and women. And so when we actually have those traditional experiences where the men are supporting the wives and the women, and the women are supporting the men, and being able to teach them how to be able to balance and create that, because we have both masculine and feminine within us. Yes. Regardless, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got those two, we've got that yin and that yang. And so our societies have taught us is like, no, this is what has to happen for girls, and this is what has to happen for boys, and these are the colors that you're supposed to be wearing for girls, and these are the colors for boys, like all those kinds of things. And so I love the fact that we are evolving and changing. And yes, so sometimes there's still some of those roadblocks, but I love the fact that we're actually talking about this self-love on the week of International Women's Day. And so and I love the fact that, like, the universe plays its own role. And it chooses what it is that's going to happen, when it's going to happen. We have some things in terms of some of the things that we actually are able to, do. But I love it when things just kind of line up, when it's like, I didn't say, Deaquelynn, can you please come on and talk about self-love at this time? It was, I did say, hey, Deaquelynn, I would love for you to be able to come on Monday Whispers Chat. Can you choose a week that would actually be perfect for you, and that we would actually be able to do this? And this is the week that you chose to talk about self-love, right? So how perfect is that? Yes. Right? So I know I didn't plan it that way. Did you plan it that way?
No, I didn't.
So this is really incredible, and it's about that, being able to be fair and open. And there are so many different traditions and so many different cultures, and being able to accept ourselves and those around us is extremely important. And and I'm thankful that I have some amazing men in my life that allows me to be able to do this, and that my boys are incredible in terms of being able to support the women that are around them, including their mom. So I love that. And I love being able to see my youngest son, who's now got a new girlfriend. And I love being able to see some of the things that he does to be able to support her and connect with her. And so, because that helps me to know that I've actually taught them those values, and that they've actually learned those values from the men that have actually been in their lives, of being able to allow us to be able to have that self-love, and that they have their own confidence to be able to, because that is one of the other parts of it too, is that he needs to be able to be comfortable in who he is, to be able to allow that to happen. Absolutely. So that, is there anything else that you'd like to share about some of, because I just rambled on.
About self-love. Well, one thing when you were talking, what came to me was also too, we have to learn how to celebrate ourselves and celebrate those moments. Like you're celebrating that you raised some beautiful sons, celebrating the fact that you have some wonderful men around you who support you. But also celebrate the small victories, the little things that you do throughout life. You know, when you take that first step outside of your comfort zone and you stand there and celebrate. I stepped outside of my comfort zone. I've done something different. And now I know that this opens me up to taking another step and the next step. You know, celebrating all of your accomplishments. There was a post I think I did in self-love wellness habits, I think back in June or July when we were having one of our challenges, and it was talking about saying, you know, I made the best coffee today. That I did that, you know, and just really celebrating the little things. And when you get into that mode of celebrating the little things, it'll be easier to celebrate those big victories that you have in your life, because we go through and we grow through so much. Sometimes we're not even aware because we feel like maybe we're so exhausted afterwards, you know, because I had a tough day today. But guess what? You survived. Celebrate the fact that you survived a tough day. Or, you know, maybe you are a caregiver like me and you just had a rough day, and, you know, it was just sometimes being a full-time caregiver is challenging. But the fact that you made it through the day and everybody's fine, celebrate that. So celebrate the big victories and also the small victories. That is a way for you to really begin to, I would say, appreciate yourself. That's what it's all about, appreciating yourself.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that, and I don't remember how long ago that it was, but one of our guests had actually shared that she was talking about how she, her goal was to be able to do a half marathon. And so she actually got to do her half marathon, and she got to the finish line and everybody was gone. There was nobody left, because by the time that she actually finished the finish line, came to the finish line, but she celebrated it.
Yes, absolutely.
She actually made it to the end of the finishing line,
right?
Regardless of whether or not people were there. And because she was there. She was there, she showed up, she did it. And so she still accomplished it. Yeah. And so, so that just took me back to when you were talking about celebrating, that took me back to that, that example, right? Yeah. So it's huge.
Yeah. And even when you're thinking about the things that you survived, maybe childhood trauma or things like that, the fact that you're still here deserves celebration. You know, I'm still here. And I'm seeking help. I'm seeking healing. I'm seeking, you know, to be empowered. I'm seeking to love myself more. Celebrate those things as well.
That is an amazing message. So is there anything else that you wanted to be able to share with everybody before we sign off, Deaquelynn?
I think that's it. Thank you for having me, Rollie. This was fun. I enjoyed talking to you. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for all that you've done for Self-Love Wellness Habits. I just so love your spirit and love who you are. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Well, I'm thrilled that you said yes when I asked, because like I said, I've been following Deaquelynn for a while. And so there's always these different people that we find that inspire us. And Deaquelynn is definitely one of those women that have inspired me for some time.
Same here.
So very thankful that she was able to come on and share with us. And so Deaquelynn, I think that there are links in the comments or in the things, but if can you maybe add any ways of being able to reach you?
Okay.
I'm definitely going to make sure that we put in the self-love body habits link in there, so that you can actually connect. But if there's anything else that you think that somebody might be that might be useful, so maybe the links for the Self-Love University, if they want to be able to connect with you, so that they have that opportunity. So the because I don't know all the links, so to make sure that you actually get them in there, if you can get any ways that people can actually connect with you, that would be amazing. And like I said, for those of you who are on the replay that are still on now, if you guys come back, Deaquelynn will definitely come back and comment to each and every one of you who comment. And so for sure that will actually happen. I will tag Deaquelynn because I couldn't do it from the when I set it up to go live, but I will definitely go back in and and tag Deaquelynn, so that way there she has access to it as well, and she'll be able to get the messages. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'm really looking forward to working together on Thursday. I am going to start working with Deaquelynn for at least a month. We'll see where things go after that, but really excited to be doing that with you. And
thank you. I'm so excited to have you.
Our chats on Thursday, and bye for now, everyone.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.